money was so freaking cheap for so long that we have to pay a price for it. And now you're looking at the economy. It looked like everything was good, but a big part of it was fake, Sam. We had a lot of fake success the last few years.
Well, I mean, look, I'm just measuring on, again, the way I view things is what's going to make things better for the most amount of people. And in terms of it being in favor of the capitalists, I would also change our tax policy. So, I mean, I would claw some of that back, quite a bit of it back.
What would you do?
I would return to the tax policy when we had the greatest, sort of the widest economic expansion shared by more people as a percentage of our population than any other time in this country, which was in the 50s and the 60s. And I would return to the tax rates more or less there. So your top tax rate at that time was 90%, top marginal rate, for every dollar over $470,000 you would earn. So that would be equivalent to around $3 million today. I think we should return to that type of tax
You want it
scheme.
to go as high as 90% at the top marginal tax
At the top marginal tax rate. So understand, that only kicks in with every dollar above $3 million.
I hear you. And
yeah.
I mean, that's the famous Reagan situation where I think it was anything over $200,000 at that point. This might have been in the 40s, that he would only do 2 movies a year because he'd get paid $100,000 per movie, and then he wouldn't even do a third movie because he would only get 10% of the revenue because he's like, fuck it, I'm not doing another movie.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that curb growth?
When Reagan started telling that story,
Yep.
You know who he was working for when he started telling that story, right? He was going around, I think it was working for GE, trying to convince people not to get Medicare for all. I mean, if Reagan could have gotten 3 movies, 5 movies, he would have done it. He was working with chimps. He would have been happy to do that for his career. Believe me. Believe me.
What's the top marginal tax rate right now? 39%? What is it?
I think
right
it's
now?
37, 39%.
So you're in favor.
I will say this, though, just to finish up that Reagan story. I will say this to you. I remember being in L.A., and taxes, top line had hit whatever the all-in was, 57.5. I don't know what the number was, around 57.5. You live in Brooklyn. So 57.5%. People are like, what the hell is going on here? There was this girl who was a top realtor in the San Fernando Valley area, one of the top realtors. Her picture was on all the benches. Everywhere you would go, you would see her. And she was one of the realtors making very good money. She's making $500,000 a year income, doing good for herself, whatever the number was, $400,000, $500,000. One day, I stopped seeing her pictures on the seats. And I'm at Wood Ranch with my wife, and I said, hey, you're the girl, right? She says, yeah, I am. She's with her husband and her 2 kids. I said, what happened? We haven't seen you lately. She says, it's so funny you ask. My husband and I made a decision that the moment taxes got so high, it was more important for me to be stay home. It wasn't worth me working to pay this much in taxes. So there's a part of what he's saying. Yeah, whether he's going to do the movies with chimps and all that stuff. But there's a part of it that kind of incentive needs to be there.
America would not have suffered by the lack of Ronald Reagan movies. And I would also argue, I would also argue that, I guarantee you, there was no less houses that sold because that one particular broker stopped selling houses at a certain point.
So go to it. So right now,
I don't think that's a problem. I really don't. I mean, I think
to raise it to 90%.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think
top line.
What you're talking about is sort of the Laffer curve, actually, right?
Yeah.
You love the Laffer curve. You're a big fan of it, apparently.
I'll tell you what I love about the Laffer curve is that we had a perfect example of almost like a perfect model of what happens with the Laffer curve, right? Like the Laffer curve argues that the higher the tax rate goes, the less inclined people are going to be to generate income. And then because they're generating less money, there's going to be less tax receipts collected by the government. Art Laffer was Sam Brownback's #1 advisor in Kansas. Do you remember this when Brownback became governor? He basically gave over his entire tax structure to Art Laffer. They had it destroyed the tax base in Kansas. It ended up destroying their entire education system. They had an amazing Kansas university. Brownback gets plucked out of Kansas and literally sent to be ambassador to Ether. You know what? They made him ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy around at all. the Republican-controlled Kansas legislature raised taxes back up because it had destroyed their tax receipts. The theory may sound good, but it doesn't work in practice.
So are you on YouTube and Rumble or just YouTube?
I'm on YouTube. I think we put it on Rumble. I think we're also on Twitch. And
all over the place. Okay, so let me ask you this question. If YouTube took their AdSense from 55 to 15, would you continue creating content?
Yeah.
You sure?
Sure.
You'd continue creating content?
I wasn't doing YouTube for a long time.
How do you make a living today?
I have membership. That people pay. I get ad revenue from different places.
Okay, so let's just say the membership that you get from Patreon or whoever it is, okay? What if their fees went from them keeping 5% to 60% to 90%? Would you continue creating content?
I mean, I would probably have to cut back if there was that.
Exactly.
Well, but that's only because it's such a big change.
No, because that's the part about incentive, Sam. So your audience gets to enjoy you.
I'm not saying we'll cut the revenue for these businesses. I'm saying that the amount of
you
money...
have no choice, though, because you're paying these guys. You need the revenue.
No. I'm not suggesting we cut revenue for businesses. What I am suggesting is after that revenue comes in... and we divvy up and I have my net profits, then my taxes would go up. But I will say this, like if, let's say, the taxes went up on me personally, would I stop going on YouTube? No.
So would you be able to scale it how many employees you got working for you right now?
I'm not talking about cutting revenue,
I get that. How many employees are you working for you right now?
We have payroll, I think, like 6 or 7
Okay, you got
people.
that's a small business you got there, right?
Sure.
6 or 7 people, okay. If all of a sudden AdSense went up, the fees for your Patreon, I don't want to offend you when I say Patreon, I don't know who you use. Whoever you use that's got your membership stuff that you got.
We use Fans FM.
Okay, there you go. That's a shout out to them. So Fans FM,
Right
Fans FM?
Fans.fm. It's actually a great service.
Okay, fantastic. So if they raised
they take less than Patreon.
If they take 50% all of a sudden, and they say YouTube says AdSense goes to 15%, would you be able to employ those 6 people?
No, if my well, I don't know, but probably
maybe that's because you're rich.
No, probably not. But I'm not suggesting that we cut revenue for businesses. I'm suggesting that what is left over from revenue, if it's over $3 million, that goes into the pocket of the owner of this enterprise, that $300 million and $1 gets taxed
Let's
at
have fun with this.
90 cents.
Let's have fun with this. So here's a question for you. And I kind of know what your answer is.
And I want to be clear on something.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. I subscribe to this not because I think that we need the money or that this is going to, be a panacea in terms of like how we would spend this money.
Yeah.
But I see in this country a massive problem with wealth inequality and the commensurate political inequality that comes with it. We have wealth inequality in this country like we've never had before.
I don't disagree. So there's not a disagreement there. But the solution is where we're going to disagree. So let's kind of process that together. Okay. So the whole thing, like I remember when I first got out of the military and I went into the financial industry, it's 1999. I know nothing. It's 2000. I know nothing about it. The speaker gets up. Wow, have you been noticing that the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poor? I'm like, okay, my dad's at a cashier at a 99-cent store 15 years. My parents got divorced twice.
I hope you said to that guy, you ain't seen nothing yet. Yeah. Wait till 20 years
but you're
from now.
Right,
it's going to be completely out of control.
But you're right, though. But why is the question? So here's a question for you. So you're saying above $3 million, that money that the owner's going to keep, we got to tax them 90%. Fine. Okay. So you believe the money, like when I was in the military, you would buy a product for the Humvees, and they would say, yeah, we pay $600 for this piece. We're like, dude, this piece is $40.
Right.
Why the hell are we paying $600 for? Well, the contracts. You know how they are, man. The government always pays a lot because they're dumb. They always pay more than it's usually worth. A $40 piece for a Hummer, they're paying $600. I'm like, that's an awesome business for the other guy.
Yeah, we have horrible oversight in the military.
But this is the point, though. This is the point. And I want to actually sincerely get your thoughts on this, on how we address this. So if somebody overpays for a product, that person's either got to be fired or they're an overspender or a terrible negotiator. But it's one of the three, right? Okay. So you feel money going to the government we do more good with, or money staying in the free market for people to produce more value? Where do you feel values produce more?
Well, I'm not. I mean, I'm not sure I fully get what you're saying, but let me put it in this way.
It's a very simple question.
Well,
I want it to be clear.
Let me make it a little bit more concrete.
Yeah.
So you guys know that the biggest part of the budget, more or less, is Social Security and Medicare, right?
And Medicaid, yeah.
And Medicaid.
Entitlement programs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can call them entitlement programs.
They are
I call them social insurance programs because
Tomato.
That's what they really are.
That's 90% of the budget, I want to say.
No, the military is about $850 billion. Social Security is like $1.7 trillion. I think Medicare is probably close to like $700 billion.
It's about 60%.
And then there's other.
Way more.
It's a high number. It's a big number. You're right. It's a high number.
You'll find that it's. I think our annual budget is somewhere around like $2.7 trillion, and the military is like $800 billion, $900 billion. You know that you can see anyways that they show us.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Social Security, Medicare, the two biggest things that the government does are wildly popular. Medicare, you come from the insurance business, you probably know this. To administer health insurance, there's like 15% cost in the administration of that health insurance. For Medicare, 3%. Far more efficient. And copays are less. I mean, and the whatever you want to call it, consumer satisfaction. I don't like to think of citizens as consumers, but the satisfaction's huge, through the roof, particularly when people use it. It's people appreciate it who don't use it. You know, if I got my parents, they're on Medicare, I'm pretty psyched about it because I don't have to take care of them. My mother's in a nursing home now. It's Medicaid that's doing that. I'm not responsible for that cost. Social Security, through the roof. In fact, I think even a majority of Republicans want to expand.
But popular is not a way to qualify something. If I went out there and I gave, if I went to high school and I said, guys, I'm giving dime bags to everybody weed, I'd be a very popular kind of high school. So that is a wrong way to qualify.
You said efficiency.
Yeah.
Medicare, 3% administrative costs versus 15%.
That's like the kid that's running for class president who's like, every Friday we're throwing a pizza party. Well, he's going to get everybody's vote. But who's paying for the pizza party?
Well, workers. In fact, I would argue that we should be actually removing the cap on Social Security taxes because right now, it goes only up to $160,000, right? There's a cap. Traditionally, Social Security has captured or touched 91% of the country's income. You follow me? And now it's somewhere down in like the mid 80s because of wealth inequality.
But your argument on the flip side of it, the argument can be as well to say, well, at the beginning when they came out with Social Security, there was only a few thousand people in America that was actually using it. It was not meant to be for as big of a behemoth of what it is today.
No, it kept 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. It keeps 2/3 of our elderly.
Nobody's arguing the benefits.
That's not the argument, though. That's not the argument. The argument is, originally when it came out, it wasn't for the bigger percentage.
You had to wait. You had to wait until you build up the funds.
You didn't have to. You had to have capitalists work and overtax them to be able to fund it. That's what you had to do. But let me go back to the question.
I think what you are saying, just to validate your point, I think at that point, this is FDR back in the day.
Yeah, we can pull up the data.
I think there was 40 workers for every retiree. I think now it's closer to like 3 workers.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
So it's not even close.
No. It is sustainable.
You think it's sustainable.
No, I don't think it's sustainable. I'm looking at the Social Security Trust Fund actuarial
with
table.
the letter, when they sent you this, in the Social Security letter, they're telling you if we go this way, this is going to go bankrupt.
No, you're misreading it. The trust fund is going to go bankrupt. In 1981, Greenspan and Reagan expanded the trust fund. We had a surge of baby boomers. There is a trust fund that exists that is essentially like a rainy day fund. That is going to be insolvent around 2033.
2033.
2033.
10 years. You are correct. I just had this conversation this past week.
However,
that's not a concern. That's not a concern.
It is a concern. It will cause 20% in cuts to our benefits.
Okay.
But that's it. Period. Now, the way that we can get rid of that 20% in cuts in the Social Security Trust Fund is to do what I'm suggesting. Remove the cap so that every dollar you make even above $160,000
Yeah, but
is taxed by Social Security.
Sam,
and then your kids will be long dead before that trust fund is out.
Hopefully, if I raise my kids right, my kids won't need to be supported by the government.
If they don't need to be, if they don't need that social insurance, look, I mean, how can you, as an insurance guy, how can you not understand this?
No, I
don't sit around saying like, you know, I hope that I don't need my fire insurance. I hope I don't. If your kids don't need Social Security, old age insurance, then you know what?
But
we will tax the money back.
I am better for society. I am better for society if I find ways to get people off of needing any of this stuff than to rely on it more and more and more, because I'm truly hurting those who are creating commerce. That's who I'm hurting. But let me go back to my question.
Hold on for one second.
Wait a minute. We
had an experiment with this.
Wait a minute. Let me ask the question for you. Let me ask the question. You still haven't answered my question for me. No, wait.
401ks with a private solution.
You still haven't answered my question. Let me go back to the question to you. So my question at the beginning, you have not yet answered, okay? When you said, you know, I would go back to the old tax system and I would take you to the 50s and 60s where we had a 90%, okay. And I asked you a question. I said, who do you think produces more value? I gave the example of the Humvee, the pieces in the Army, how much we were paying, $600, but the piece was only $40. And the government tends to overspend because they're reckless spending. They're not really held accountable. Does money going in free market create more value, or money going to the government create more value for people?
Explain to me what you mean by value.
Okay, so value to me is, you know, if I can give money to free market and lower taxes where they can go create more jobs, more opportunities, is that better for us long term, or is it better for us to raise taxes, to take away incentives and give that money, tax money, goes to politicians to make decisions what to do with the money? Are politicians better at making decisions on what to do with our money, or are we?
I mean, I guess on like in a broad way, I would say if we're going to look at the biggest chunk of money in the government to make this assessment, right? $1.7 trillion, Social Security. And we can compare it to the one sort of like comparable thing in the private sector, and that's a 401k. I would have to say, I mean, just based upon the way you've set up this question, that obviously the government, because Social Security has been the single most effective program that we have in this country. It has kept 2/3 of our senior citizens out of poverty as a social insurance program. 401ks have been a disaster. They've been a disaster. Just Google right there in front of you, the 401k experiment. People took the money out. I mean, and grant you, like, you know, you can make an assessment that these individuals were stupid or immoral or whatever it is. I'm looking at the goal of keeping senior citizens out of poverty. The government has been able to do that far more effectively. 2/3 of our seniors are in nursing homes because the government is paying for it. You can look around at anything that doesn't involve a profit motive. Like, for instance, the post office. If we didn't have a government-run post office, do you think you could live in, you know, the most rural parts of the country and get postal service for 42 cents or 48 cents? You can send a letter? No way. What person looking to make a profit would do that? In fact, I've got a great example. This is, you know, I was doing radio during Katrina, and there was a story that haunted me for years and years. When Bill Clinton, I'm not a huge fan of Bill Clinton's administration, frankly, but one of the things he did do well was to build up FEMA. I guess having come from Arkansas, he had a pretty good sense of what was important there. And Bush, when he came in very early on, privatized a ton of it. There was a story, it was a very small story, in New Orleans. The buses that were supposed to come to New Orleans to evacuate people before Katrina hit, there was a whole ton of buses that went through 3 different contractors, right? There was like a general contractor and then a subcontractor, and another subcontractor was going to bring the buses. They were from like 3 or 4 hours away. And maybe it was 6 hours. I can't remember the exact details. They were going to send the buses, but the guy whose job it was, who owns the bus company, and then the contractor above that, they waited longer, because if you send the buses and they're not used, they're going to eat that cost, right? It's going to cut into their profits. They didn't send the buses. They didn't get there in time. People couldn't get evacuated. Would it have changed the trajectory of the thing? I doubt it, but it would have saved some people. And the point is that there are some jobs that the government does better because the value there is not measured in terms of actual sheer dollars. It is measured in, essentially how much immiseration are you inhibiting people from suffering? And so yes, I agree that when it comes to auditing in the military, the worst government agency we have, because it's very easy, it's very hard to sort of like scrutinize the military. People don't like that. And it's also a huge power base of a lot of money. They make a ton of money out of this. I agree with that.
But same with
But
insurance.
if you look at Medicare, Social Security, well, listen, the numbers don't lie. 3% administrative costs for Medicare.
Can I just make I appreciate some of the points you're making. I do think that you're kind of conflating a couple different things. I think to Pat's question, whether the government is better at spending your money or whether the private markets or private companies are better, it's not even close. If private companies
what do you mean
ran
by
up,
spending money, like to buy like soda, or to actually like
just
direct it in a way that keeps less people from suffering?
Okay, we have $31 trillion in debt right now. I think that's evidence enough, Sam, that we're not so good at spending money here in America.
It sounds like we're really good at spending money.
Well, we're not good at
managing is a better word. Yeah.
Okay, there's a difference between being frugal and being smart with your money and just being wasteful. The government is clearly fucking wasteful. Where you are correct is that most retirees and most Americans do appreciate Social Security, do appreciate the entitlement programs that come with this country, whether it's Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, no doubt. But that doesn't mean the government is good at spending money. We're seeing that Social Security is about to go bankrupt.
The trust fund is going to be
the trust
insolvent
fund by 2023. And yes, I just had this conversation literally 2 days ago in D.C. where he kept using the word bankrupt, bankrupt, bankrupt. I said, what does that mean?
Who kept using that word?
This was
Which Republican used it?
It wasn't even a Republican. He was sort of a Social Security financial advisor, expertise type of guy. But I said, what do you keep saying bankrupt? Is that meaning that retirees will not be receiving benefits? He goes, no, they'll probably be slashed by 25%. You use 20, so we can, cut the baby in half here. But how familiar are you with the three-legged stool of retirement?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so it used to be you had three avenues to retire. You had pensions, which do they even exist anymore for 90% of people?
More as a defined contribution than defined.
They're not very popular these days. I don't know how many people here have pensions. You have Social Security, which was never meant to be a retirement program. It was an insurance policy if you live too long, which basically Americans are now. Or you have your personal savings, which is the 401k. We can argue the merits of 401ks and Roth IRAs, what have you. But Social Security should not be keeping Americans afloat for 30 years of their life.
Well, that's the failure of the private industry, isn't it?
Why is it a failure of the private industry?
Well, I mean, Social Security is maintained. The idea that we're leaning on the government stool because the other two have failed. That's a function of private industry.
Isn't that a function of just the average person understanding how money works and saving money, investing and doing it properly, versus the government or institutions?
60% of the country lives paycheck to paycheck. How are they supposed to save this money?
Well, how are they spending their money, I guess, is the biggest question. How many people have credit card debt? How many people? You just said when you took out a mortgage, you said, I'm an actor. What was the rate? You're like, I don't fucking even know. You should know.
Well, I was making so much money that
I don't give a shit how much money you're making, Sam. You should know what your mortgage rate is.
But, I didn't remember what it was in 1998. But, I know what it is now. But, but I was making so much money, but I was making, I was in the top, I don't know if I was in the top 1% at that time, but probably pretty close.
So let me ask you a question.
And I was a single guy who had just gone from making, to $22,000 a year to all of a sudden making that.
How much were you
making
in a week at that point?
I was making a lot of money.
Now, how comfortable at that point would you have been paying 90% in taxes?
Sure.
So you actually want to pay 90% in taxes?
No. Let's be clear.
That?
I think it should be 90% over for the every dollar you make over $3 million.
Yeah.
That would not have impacted me at that time. But I would have been happy to pay more taxes.
But why would anyone want to
You know why I'm laughing? Because it's always let's tax the people a little richer than me. It's always let's tax the guys that are a lot
richer. But I'm just going back.
If you're saying 20,
I'm just going back.
If you're saying 22 a week, you were making $1,098,000. That's a lot of money.
No. Well, it wasn't 20.
You said 22 a week. That's $1 million a year.
No. That was the year before. I mean,
but you're making money.
I was making a bunch of money. But I'm just going back to when we had the Great Compression, which was when we had the least wealth inequality in this country. Mm-hmm. We had the GDP was, consistent with where, on our trajectory, but it was spread out. It wasn't like this. Essentially, Rob, it was more spread out. It's called the Great Compression. And I'm just using that figure. I mean, look, if it's going to be 85% over 3 million or 85% over 4 million, I'm just basing it on what was the most successful economic era of this country.
Why not do 90% over $250,000?
I mean, if the numbers bared out, I'm agnostic as to that. Again, I'm just pegging it on when we had the most success in this country in terms of our economy.
I appreciate that you're pointing out the success, but right now the top marginal tax rate federally is 37, 39. Okay, you do realize how shocking it is to say, all right, rather than go from 37 to 39, how about 40? How about 50?
How many?
You want to go to 90?
How many people do you assume? How many people do you assume would be touched by that tax? Would be implicated?
Top 1%. Look at this number right here. Share of total income taxes paid.
Less.
The top 1% in this country pay 42.3%. The bottom 50% only pay 2.3%. So 150 million people are paying nothing in taxes.
Right.
And you want to keep the 1% paying more and more?
I think it's actually even less than 1%, to be honest with you. I think we're talking about 0.05%.
Sure, but let's tax them even more.
I specifically want to make it illegal to be almost as wealthy as you. Not quite. But a little bit more. Like, I want to make it not illegal. You're not going to go to jail.
So nobody can be no billionaires. No billionaires in America.
Absolutely.
Sam,
100%.
Why? Don't you want America to be known for greatness, for innovation, for capitalism, for all the amazing things that we've done in this country?
My definition of
you want to go to like Nordic socialism.
My definition of greatness is different from yours.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.